Hi, my name is Thomas. I'm 21 years old. I study mathematical engineering, and I've never set foot in a traditional classroom. Not once. Yet, somehow, I still ended up here. Now, let me show you something. What do the following people have in common? Taylor Swift, Ryan Gosling, Simone Biles, Elon Musk, might have heard of him somewhere, Laura Deming, Leonardo da Vinci. They were all educated, at least partly, outside a traditional school system. Now, be honest. Did that information change how you see them? That reaction, as it turns out, isn't really regarding homeschooling. It's about how deeply we've learned to confuse education with institution. Before we go any further, let me be very clear. This isn't a talk about producing exceptional individuals. Homeschooling doesn't turn everyone into a genius. In fact, most people who are educated this way are completely ordinary. The difference isn't who they become. The difference is that they had an option. And today, that option makes many of us uncomfortable. I never followed the traditional school path. Today, I'm in my final year of a degree in mathematical engineering, on track to graduate this September. Before that, I trained professionally as a ballet dancer, and alongside my studies, I run my own business. Those paths don't usually sit next to each other. For me, they could, because my education didn't push me quickly toward one identity. Rather, it allowed me to explore more than one, seriously, not superficially. But let me open the black box for a moment. People often imagine homeschooling as either chaos or pressure. As it turns out, for me, it was neither. When I was deep into ballet, my mornings often started at the Accademia Teatro alla Scala. Hours at the bar, corrections, precision, repetition. And then I'd come home. Some afternoons I was intent on studying mathematics, and some I didn't. It wasn't about the number of hours. What mattered was the ownership. No one was standing over me. No one was measuring me against the class. No one was constantly telling me where I ranked. And that sounds like freedom, but it wasn't always simple. Because when no one is grading you, you can't hide behind performance. If I was behind, I had to admit it. If I was tired, I simply had to adjust. If I failed, there was no one to blame. That rhythm, not rigid, but intentional, taught me something school rarely can. It taught me how to regulate myself. Not because someone enforced it, but because I needed it. And it turns out self-regulation isn't just a personal skill. It's a social one too, because the moment you learn how to manage your ego, your frustration, your insecurity, you become much harder to destabilize in a room. Speaking of which, there's one question I've been asked my entire life. Thomas, did you socialize? What people usually mean when they ask me that question is, did you sit in a classroom with 25 kids your age? That's one model of socialization. Mine was different. For example, in ballet, you don't socialize. You are corrected publicly, every day, in front of mirrors, in front of peers, in front of yourself. You learn humility. You learn resilience. You learn that improvement isn't personal, it's technical. That's a very intense form of social education. And outside the classroom, my world wasn't age-segmented. I spent time with adults, with younger kids, with people who didn't think like me. Conversations weren't about surviving a group dynamic. They were about understanding one another. Yet, the real gift of my education wasn't freedom. It was time. Time to understand what I was good at. Time to discover what I wasn't. Time to change my mind. Instead of people telling me who I was supposed to be, the math kid, the art kid, the strong one, the quiet one, I had the space to figure it out myself. That process is slow, sometimes uncomfortable, often uncertain. You have to sit with the question. And sitting with that question builds something school rarely names. A sense of self that isn't borrowed. Not borrowed from grades, not borrowed from reputation, not borrowed from comparison, but built slowly from experience. That doesn't mean it was easy, of course. I remember one evening sitting at the kitchen table preparing for my university entrance exams. The house was quiet. No teacher was assigning chapters. No class moving at the same pace, no structure pushing me forward. Just a calculus textbook and me. And in that moment, what I felt wasn't panic. It was stillness. Because there was no immediate signal telling me whether I was ahead or behind. No external rhythm. Just the responsibility to measure myself honestly. And that's uncomfortable. Not because there's no pressure. There is. You're entering society. You're stepping into systems that evaluate you. But the pressure feels different when it isn't coming from daily positioning. It becomes internal. You have to decide, am I ready? Have I done enough? Am I being rigorous or just comfortable? My parents weren't grading me, but they were trusting me. And trust is heavier than supervision, because trust assumes that you are capable of choosing well. And if I failed, there was no system to blame. It would be mine. That's friction. That's responsibility. That night, I learned something important. Preparing for an exam isn't about escaping the system. It's about choosing how to engage with it. I was playing the game, but I wasn't confusing the score with my identity. And that shift changes everything. Because once uncertainty is yours, boy, when that happens, you can no longer perform learning. See, at that point, you actually have to own it. That's when education stops being about approval and starts being about real life. So here's the question I want to leave you all with. What if education wasn't about exposure to systems, but about building the capacity to navigate uncertainty? Because systems change, institutions evolve, careers disappear. What remains is your ability to orient yourself when there is no script. Home education didn't prepare me for a classroom. It prepared me for when the rules change. Being here in Sicily feels fitting. This island has layers, civilizations stacked on top of each other. Nothing here grew in a straight line, and yet it endured. Education can be like that. Not linear, not uniform, but deeply rooted. Homeschooling didn't make me exceptional. It gave me the time and responsibility to become myself before being judged. When the map runs out, you don't need a system. You need a self. Thank you.